This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing, and championship week continues. Yesterday, Ryan Salzman came on, talked about fishing, tail races, dams with drop shots, finesse tactics, and today the man who got things done a little over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, he slid a vacation in between there, which I'm sure was pre-planned. It was fantastic. Not too often you get to go fishing, get a check for $100,000, and then hit the beach, which is exactly what Brandon Lester did. But he also got the job done in part with a spinning rod, near and dear to my heart, something I like to see. So if you are paying attention, that's it's roughly over $200,000 over the last couple weeks in the professional circuits on TVA fisheries, one of which is a really good big bass, 3 to 5, 6 pounders, spinny pole, as some people call it. I just call it a different tool. Now, I don't know if Lester caught all of his fish on a spinning rod, but definitely some key fish. So we will have Brandon Lester on to talk about how he got things done on Pickwick. Scorcher here in Oklahoma. I was just talking last week about how all the lakes in the state had high water, and we'd had really mild temperatures, a lot of rain, a lot of precipitation. That has changed. It is now hot, sunny, and calm, featuring triple digits. But a little bit of news in the fishing world before we get to Brandon Lester, the past the midway point in the pro circuit, headed to the James River. And like I said, if there is one pro circuit event that I am going to pay really close attention to, and I'm not even sure why, but I like it, it's the James River. In the summertime, a lot of options available for those anglers. So here's the thing. A lot of the guys that are on the pro circuit have not been to the James River before, because it has been a long time since any professional circuit has been there. The Opens like to go there, and typically they have punished the anglers by going in the middle of the summertime. The last couple times, though, they went early in the year, showed the true potential of the Florida strain largemouth in that fishery. But here's the deal. They have, I believe, an off day and only 2 days of practice. Now, having fished the James River twice and pretty much staying in the Chickahominy the whole time, I can tell you that is a massive, massive fishery to figure out in 2 days if you haven't been there before. I know a lot of guys went down and pre-practiced that, but very interested to see how that event going down. Also, a little bit of news, Guck, as everyone calls him, Alan McGuckin from Dynamic, pinned an article, and I think I'd mentioned this before on a show, but he kind of came out with a deal on it that's posted on some of the other websites, which is his donation to Grand Lake, obviously Kalamazoo, Michigan, but Kevin has a rich history on Grand Lake, I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but that was the birth of Sexy Shad back in the day with like Davey Hyde and Kevin when they were cranking points in those early days where Kevin dominated some Elite Series tournaments there. But he gave $5,000 to the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife for several thousand F1 bass, and those are like the Florida strain bass. But they're trying to figure out, hey, how are they going to thrive kind of that far north? I did not realize this in the article. It says, there was a trial run at Uchi, which is a really good kind of smaller lake next to Grand. It can be good. It can also be really, really tough there. But it said prove that F1s are handling the colder climate, and then a bunch of people like match Kevin's donations, and private donors donated it, and I think they ended up raising around $40,000 to purchase nearly 100,000 F1 fingerlings to go into Grand over the next couple years. So, kind of a cool story there, and no doubt that Grand is a regular stop on pretty much every circuit, and I think it will continue to be. Also, will be interesting to see if any other Oklahoma lakes might get thrown into the mix in the near future. I think I've heard some rumblings that there's outside of Texoma, there are a couple other fisheries that they might have some events on. But all right, let's get to the man of the hour, fresh off of vacation, and I know it's gotta suck because the worst thing to do, like you're busy, you're rolling, you get it, and then when you go on vacation, like everything just kind of stops. And then, most people, it takes 2 or 3 days to get back in the swing of things, but you probably, and Brandon, you probably got inundated with requests and business stuff, and you're like, man, I'm on the beach, just leave me alone, just let me do my thing. But now you're spending the next, week getting caught up on taking care of business following your first Elite Series win.
Yeah, for sure. But, that's all part of the game. I mean, that's what it's all about. So I'm certainly happy to do it. It was nice to have that week off. And you're right, it was a pre-planned vacation. It's not like I said, hey, we just won $100,000, let's go to the beach. No, it was a pre-planned vacation, and we had a lot of fun. But it's back to business now for sure.
It's interesting because I had some people say, well, why didn't he just cancel his vacation because it was his first Elite Series win and he could do it? And I'm like, I don't think you understand what the families and what these anglers go through, and like there's so much sacrifice that's on it that when you do plan it, and I know, I talk to guys about it, like you have to pre-plan it, like you can't like miss out on that. Like there's so much sacrifice involved of everybody in the family to be a professional fisherman and be on the road. When you've got some time and you're looking forward to it, man, you have to unwind and relax in order for the entire system to work for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no way that was never an option. I was not going to. I mean, my family comes first. That's just kind of the way I roll, and I'll take care of my business, and we'll get it all done. It's all good, and I appreciate everybody, being patient with me and kind of putting things off for the week. But I mean, the good news is the blue trophy's not going anywhere, so we still want it. We're just talking about it a week later.
As I said, speaking of taking care of business, I went back and I ran some numbers, and if I'm correct here, I believe that Alton Jr., because of some of the stuff that he did at heavy hitters this year that he qualified for the previous year, though he's won one, he's got the heavy hitters and then some others. He might be in your realm, but out of all of the professional anglers, and take the classic out of it, outside of the classic winner, you're like in the top 2 of all professional anglers right now in earnings in 2022, and that's like a lot of guys. You're approaching a quarter of a million, about $220,000 so far this year, and 2 wins. I mean, dude, that's big league, man.
Yeah, that's a good year. Honestly, this is the best year I've ever had. And I didn't even realize I was getting as close as I was. But with this win, actually went over the $1 million mark with bass, which I probably spent 1.5 to make that. But, everybody thinks, oh, he's won $1 million. He's got $1 million. It don't work that way. I hate to bust everybody's bubble, but yeah, dude, it is. The year's going really good, and to get 2 wins already, and still got, we got 3 elite tournaments and another open. So there's opportunity there for another one. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned the $1 million. You kind of downplayed it, but that's kind of a cool club. I mean, every time it gets mentioned, every time someone adds it, that's a cool club to be a part of, and that shows that means one of 2 things: remarkable consistency or winning big tournaments. And for you, up until this year, it had primarily been remarkable consistency, and it wasn't it. we would always tell you like Bill Lowen kind of got that monkey off his back at Pickwick. Now 2 years ago with his first win, and then I would always put kind of Zaldane in that group on the bass side, even though he has won a 50 boat. I'm talking about a regular season, and I think you would have had to have been in that group and really at the top then since Lowen, and then maybe at the top if you count technically Zaldane has the win, but I mean, you look at your top tens knocking on the door, and then this year it was just like, boom, the door opens.
Yeah, I think my whole career I have definitely strived for consistency. I've always kind of been the kind of guy that I want to catch my five every day, and we'll let the big ones come. We'll let the chips fall where they may, and you have guys. It's funny. You see guys that take a Greg Hackney or a Jason Christie, they come to mind. They don't mind fishing for five all day long, big baits and all that, and they probably win more trophies than a guy like me. But I've always just kind of strived for consistency. It comes down to fishing style and being comfortable with what you do. And you were talking about a spinning rod is near and dear to your heart earlier. It's very near and dear to my heart as well. I know I can pick up a spinning rod and I can get some bites when I need to. And I probably pick it up a lot quicker than a lot of guys would, and it's burned me in the past. I'll be honest, but I'm getting to the point in my career where I know when to pick it up and when I'm fishing for big fish with a spinning rod. I feel like if you're around, there's certain situations where just because you're using a spinning rod does not mean you're fishing for small fish.
And this past week at Pickwick was one of those examples.
Exactly right. I weighed in second day. I caught a 613, 614 on a spinning rod, Nico rig. Third day I caught one over 5, I believe, on it. Every day I caught very, very key fish on a Nico rig just because that's what I could get them to bite.
Did you ever reach for that as your first option, or was it always I don't want to use the term cleanup option because that seems like it like kind of diminishes its value, but it was always in combination with some more power, quote unquote, power technique.
Right. Yeah. Anytime I'm fishing for a school of fish, it's you kind of want to take their temperature. I want to fire something moving in there first. I want to know, are they fired up right now? Can I get them fired up? Because I truly believe if you can get fish fired up in a schooling situation on a moving bait, like a bigger crankbait, I was throwing a striking 4.0, that's a big square bill, or, if I was fishing a deeper spot, I'd throw a 6XD. If I'm winding something like that, I feel like I'm fishing for the biggest fish in that school. But a lot of times they're just in a mood for whatever reason, whether it be current, whether it be time of day, whatever it may be. They don't want to bite a moving bait. They'll just sit there and watch it go by. And so every morning I would start out with a crankbait, and the first morning I did a lot of my damage on that. The second morning I got off to a good start with that crankbait. But the third and fourth day, I went to the worm pretty quick because it was pretty apparent. I'd feel one maybe bump the crankbait or knock the water off of it, but they got to the point where they just wouldn't eat it anymore.
I don't know any other way to ask this, Brandon, but just watching this on live and talking to some of the other anglers around it, this seemed like an easy win. It seemed like you found the winning school of fish. You knew it was a winning school of fish. You did a lot of camping. You didn't have a ton of competition on it, and it was the best, most active, big school of fish on Pickwick, and you kind of knew the only way you could, I want to say not win, but the only way you could lose this tournament was either someone else absolutely freak show it, which Pickwick has big fish, but not the 35, 30-pound bags of fish. It's hard to get up past that 7-8 pound, but really you were the only one that could keep you from winning this event. And it looked like that on Bass Track, and it looked like that based on the daily. You didn't really care where you were. You knew what it would take to win, and you just went out and did it and kind of just hung out the rest of the time. I know it could sound cocky to say that, but I mean, in all reality, is that kind of how it went down?
It kind of progressed as the tournament went on, to be honest. By the third day, when I got there the third morning and that spot had reloaded and I I caught another good limit off of it the third morning. And I saw how many were there on active target when I first got there. I was like, this is a special spot. The first day, I only spent like maybe 35, 40 minutes there, and I got the heck out of there because there weren't any other locals around, weren't any other competitors around that could see me good enough to dial it in. So I got out of there. The second morning, I had some spectators. Third morning, obviously, had spectators. So, I'd spend my time there, I'd do my damage, and I'd move on. And I didn't know, there's a lot of evening tournaments and stuff on Pickwick. They could have been completely thrashing that spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's public water. It's the way it goes. But I knew going into that final day that if I wouldn't have won, dude, I would have been mad at myself forever because I knew that there was enough fish there, and I only got 5, maybe 6 off that spot on that last day, but I knew there was enough there for one more day. And I also knew that I had enough other stuff where I could run around and catch a good enough bag because I knew going into the fourth day, if I caught 18 pounds, it was going to be hard to beat me. It would have still been possible. Heck, it would have still been possible with the 22-14 I had, but there had not been a bag that big weighed in all week. So somebody would have had to have just an amazing day.
Did the Open win in Florida early in the year, do you think, take some edge off and allow you a little bit more comfort going into the last day here at Pickwick?
Yeah, I think so. I think it took a little bit of the edge off for this whole season, to be honest. I have not really changed my strategy any. So much of the sport is mental. You hear guys talk about it a lot. And, it's just taking a lot of stress off my mind, knowing I don't have to worry about making that classic and being at that the 2023 classic is going to be in my home state in Knoxville, where I finished in the top 10 the last time we had a classic there. Obviously, I've not spent a ton of time on Fort Loudon and Tellico. It's definitely not one of my home lakes, but it's the Tennessee River. And I love the Tennessee River. That's no secret. So, just having that out of the way has definitely freed my mind up a lot this year and just let me fish comfortable.
I got 2 directions I want to go here. I have a couple more questions about the spot you're on, but then you also brought up the mental and fishing comfortable wise. And I think you were going into this year, we're in a unique, I'm just thinking about the possibilities here, right? Because I study this and I look and it's all about potential and certain anglers who get on rolls. Okay, just hear me out here. You won the Open. They announced that the Classic is in Knoxville. I'm assuming you're fishing all of the Southern, so then you don't have to worry about that for Angler of the Year. You also get your first win there. Then you win the Elite Series. You're over 200,000. You're in the $1 million club. You are in 4th in the Angler of the Year with a realistic but outside chance of qualifying for it. You're set up in the next 6 months to have, I believe, a year that we've seen glimpses of you in the past, which I think it's kind of been when is Lester going to finally break through? And you've kind of done that to yourself because if you go back to 18 and 19 and none of this you have to kind of do some research because you're talking about Classics, Angler of the Year, Opens, but you had a stretch where you went 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 12th, 44th, and 6th consecutively in Opens, Classics, and Elite Series tournaments in 18 and 19. And you've done that several times where you get on these absolute rolls where you're always in. I think one of those in there was the Waddington one back in 2018, which I can't believe that was already 4 years ago. But you seem to be able to take momentum and go with it. And that's something that the best in the game have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know, man. I guess you get in a good rotation, a good place in life. That's one of the things right now, dude. And really all my career, but right now, especially, I'm just happy in life. You know what I'm saying? I'm in a good place. My wife, 2 little girls. Dude, life is good for Brandon Lester.
Oh yeah. You
right
just
now,
got off the beach.
Yeah. Things are just going good. And I don't know. I guess that rolls over into fishing as well. But I'm having fun these days too. You know, I'm real comfortable. I've learned that I fish my way wherever we go. I think that's a big deal. I don't try to get caught up in the what's supposed to be's and what has happened and blah blah blah. I've learned to fish my way, you know, and I'm not to toot my own horn at all, but I'm a pretty versatile guy. I can do a lot of different things. I think my stats will prove that. So just having fun on the water and doing what I do, man.
If you had to describe what your way is, you said you're versatile, but if in 20 seconds you had to say this is my way of fishing, well, how would you describe your way?
Dude, that's a good question. I've thought about that a lot. When I first started my career, I would have told you I was a shallow water flipper.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, seriously, when I started my career, I thought that my biggest weakness was ledge fishing. I did not understand it at all. And so I went to work on it. And Pickwick and Gunnersville are the two lakes where I really learned to just spend a ton of time, you know, in the summers in 2015 to 2020, 21 on those two lakes, really learning what ledge fishing is all about. So, I guess to answer your question, a little bit of everything, dude. I will say this: when it comes time to fish a tournament, I've learned to kind of, I don't know, opens and elites are a little bit different, but I've learned to go against the grain just a little bit. Like take Pickwick, for instance. I knew if there was a secret spot going to be found, it was going to have to be either deeper or shallower than everybody else was looking.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I like how you let it into it because I want to talk a little bit more about that spot, also based on some of the things when we had Justin Atkins on, who top 10 that event, very familiar with Pickwick, some of the things that he said. Want to kind of pick your brain on that. It is BTL. What day of the week is today? Holy cow, it's already Tuesday. It is BTL on a Tuesday with Pickwick Elite Series champ and $1 million earner, Brandon Lester. We'll be back after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS 9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear AFCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday, talking with Elite Series champion Brandon Lester. And that's a title that you'll never get tired of being referred to as. You went from Opens champion, Brandon Lester, and then a couple months later you were like, I like Elite Series champion a little bit better. You're Opens and Elite Series champion, Brandon Lester. Sounds good.
Yep. Next up is hopefully Bassmaster Classic champion.
Yeah. What are you in the AOY or the Classic camp as far as weighing? You know what I mean? Everyone's either like, well, it's a Classic win, or the respect of the peers for the Angler of the Year. Which camp are you in as far as which holds more weight in your opinion?
I think I'm kind of on the fence, because as far as what it would mean to me personally, probably Angler of the Year. What it would mean to my career, probably the Bassmaster Classic. I've just seen, Angler of the Year is great. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems like when a guy wins the Classic, it just catapults him to a totally different level,
I would venture to say that 60 to 75%, if you're just talking straight respect with peers, would choose Angler of the Year over the Classic. I'd say 75% of the guys would. But if they could pick which one they would have, I think it'd be 60 or 70% of the guys would choose rather winning the Classic over the Angler of the Year.
Yeah. It's just such a big stage, man. It's the biggest stage we got. It's such a huge tournament for the fans. I mean, everybody that's a bass fishing fan or has ever been a bass fishing fan watches the Classic every year.
But there's just so few of you guys who understand what it is like to consistently perform for 8 or 9 months across the country, pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, summer, and then up north. Like, that's why I think, like, literally no one can understand it except you guys who are competing in it.
That's right.
What it takes and the pressures that it takes. All right, I want to get back to this spot real quick before we move on to open domination, which I definitely want to cover. Maybe glean some tips off of you there, Brandon. But I had Justin Atkins on. Really good interview. I can't believe I'd never had him on the show before. I like the heck out of him. I'm gonna have to have him back on. But he was like, man, I miss Lester's school by 100 yards. He's like, I went to this spot where they were, and he's like, instead of turning one way, he's like, I went straight. And he's like, I just smooth missed him. And he said, when I drove past, he's like, oh, wow. And then he saw it on day 2. And anyway, it was where you ended up catching him. But talk about what made you go over him. And a guy like Atkins, who obviously knows his way around the joint, probably as good or better than you. Would you not agree on that?
Absolutely. Probably.
What makes him miss him by, he said, 100 yards, and you go over him? Is that luck? Is that something specific that you found? What was because that was the winning decision that happened in practice there. Otherwise, you guys are like fighting over a school, not fighting, but
right.
You're both fishing it, and you're not able to get off of them after 45 minutes on the first morning.
Yeah, to be 100% honest, it was a little bit of luck that I found that school. So the way it laid out, it was the tip of a big bar, a shallow bar that ran up on the backside of the river channel. Very popular area on Pickwick Lake, right? So on the map, obviously, Justin and I both run the rants. We probably got our C maps shaded about the same. Well, on the map, there was one little tip that stuck up higher that set over to the side that really stuck out at you. But then there was another little subtle bar over here that just made a little corner. And I was idling past the subtle little bar to get to the high spot that Justin was talking about that was 100 yards away. And I saw him setting out off the end of this little deal. I saw him on side scan about 60 feet out to my right. And I was like, whoa. There they are. I knew exactly when I saw it. I've seen that before. I knew it had to be bass. The way they were set up, they were sitting right where it rolled off. I knew it had to be bass. And there was another competitor probably 200 yards away. So I just marked it and I kept idling, like nothing ever happened. I came back about an hour later, nobody was around. I get up to it. I see them sitting there on active target. I fire that 4.0 in their first cast, and I can feel them hitting it. Bam, bam. I get a couple bites. Fire it back in there, catch a 3.5 pounder. Nobody's around. I'll pull up and I get the heck out of there. I was like, well, I'll start here and just see what happens. And not knowing, that it was going to be the winning spot, not knowing that because that is a popular area. I didn't know I'd have it to myself. I figured somebody else would find it. You can't get anything past these guys usually, but there was a little bit of luck involved, but definitely a heck of a spot for sure.
So it's more a spot on a spot.
It absolutely it was. And I think that's why it was able to withstand me for 4 days, because I can promise you there was some locals out there fishing that spot in the evenings when I got done. I mean, and I'm not mad at them.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I get it, but I just think I was so dialed in on that spot that I knew what was going on. So
you obviously were the only Elite Series guy because those fish stay. I mean, it's not like they were there and then not there. That school was there, like all the practice, right? Because it stayed for all of it. So then you were the only Elite. There's no one else in the field who fished it, as far as I know. So you were the only guy. How many do you think that I idled over the subtle spot that found it? Out of the 94 guys in the field, how many do you think idled over the obvious tip at some point during practice? Like how many boats idled over that spot and just missed it? I know it's a guesstimate.
I would bet probably at least 50 of our guys checked this area within 100 yards of it. I guarantee, because there was a little bitty island right there that Pipkins and one of the Johnson brothers made a top 10 off of when we were there last year when it was flooded. I mean, this is not an unpopular area. It's not like you got to run 5 miles back in the creek to get to it. It's a very popular area.
The same area that Hackney destroyed him on in 2014 in the FLW event, where he came in with 31 pounds on the second day and almost hit the Century Club.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm very surprised that he didn't find him, and I'm sure he's probably surprised too. I really thought that he would have found him, because it had to be real close. I don't know exactly where he was, but it had to be real close to the area where he caught him at. Like I said, that area is always good right in there. Man, I guess I just got lucky and just found something that nobody else did.
Okay, so here's my question. You think 50 guys went over it. It's an area that's not. Do you think that incessant idling moves schools of bass, particularly on TVA fisheries in the summer? So is there a chance that maybe they had at one point been set up on that major school, but the pinging, all that stuff goes over, they get jacked, and they say, you know what, do you think they feel that pressure even though they're underwater?
Yeah, there's no doubt that fishing pressure and pinging and all that kind of stuff moves fish around. There was actually a big college event on Pickwick the week before we were there, and Atkins and I actually talked about this in the weigh-in line after day 3. We both kind of thought that maybe those fish had been sitting over there on that obvious spot, and maybe those college guys kind of pushed them over to that more subtle spot. That 100% happens. Both fishing pressure and changes in current and things like that. But yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're a weekend guy and you're trying to fish all this stuff, there's a big lesson here. Like, yeah, check the obvious stuff, but using you're a CMAP guy.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So you set it up with the, do you have there's like an additional chip you can buy and stuff, or do you use the one that's just built into your live?
No, I have the Contour HD chip.
Okay, is that do I need to get that?
You buy it, yeah. I would.
I need to get it.
Yeah.
How is it different than the one that's like built into the unit?
It shows just a little bit better detail. Yeah.
Okay.
It shows the Contour Plus that's built in is very good. Don't get me wrong, but when you go to a TVA lake, those Contour HD maps are made by state. So you buy one for Tennessee, one for Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you ever go to TVA, I would definitely recommend buying it.
And then you went in, so once you figure out exactly the type you're looking for, you basically make a heat map. to where you can look at it and go here, and then you idle it. So instead of, because I know on Pickwick it's intimidating, you could literally idle ledges for 12 hours a day.
Absolutely.
But you use that C-map to really dial in where you need to focus on and maybe find those little subtle secondary things based on your color palette.
Yes. And I've seen guys set them up with several different colors. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but just set it up the way that your eye catches what you need to see, and I couldn't even tell you how I've got mine set up, but I know I go in there and you can set up 2 or 3 different shading styles. And I have one set up for like a deep water situation, like real deep, like Champlain or up north, 40, 50 foot stuff all the way out to that. And then I have one set up for like the Tennessee River where I've got stuff shaded all the way out to like 30 feet. And then anything past 30 feet is just white. That's just river channel.
Yeah. Because it took me a while when I found the C-map. So like it's different when you first start using. To me, it took me like probably took me a month to get used to looking at it. Like when I first got it, I was like, I don't like these colors. I don't like how it works. And now it's like I can't go anywhere without it. And I'll take 20 minutes when I get down and say, this is the depth I think, and then plug, 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7. So you can actually vest it. So, I mean, it's one of those deals. If you run a Lowrance, the C-map deal, spend the time, get used to it, because there will be a point where it clicks over and you're like, all right, this is the juice now. Yeah. In my opinion. Would you agree with that? Was it a little hard to get used to at first? You were kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to figure out how to, once you figure it out, I mean, dude, it's money.
Yeah. I mean, there's several YouTube videos and stuff about how to do the shading.
That's how I did it. I was on the water watching like videos on guys on how they set it up. That's literally how I learned how to do it.
Right. Absolutely.
You do that too? Like you'll pull up like other YouTube videos while you're on the water?
Yeah. I'm not proud. I learn from anybody, man. Hey, that's what it's all about. Yeah, absolutely. If I don't know how to do something, YouTube is your best friend.
Interesting.
That's how I learned to tie an FG knot. So I used a mixture of a video that Gerald Swindle did and a video that Ott Defo did, and I kind of put my own twist on it, and that's how I learned to tie an FG knot. I spent a whole day in my shop. I was a uni guy up until about this time last year.
That's what I use right now.
Yeah, and then I finally learned to tie the FG, and I've got comfortable with it.
Do you really feel like it's that much better? Did you ever have any issues breaking off the uni to uni?
I did not, but I will say this. With a uni to uni, a lot of times when you get hung up, when you have to break your line, it'll break at the knot, like where the connection is. With an FG, I can tie an FG and I can fish all 3 days of practice. I can break off 7 or 8 times, and every time it'll break at the bait. It will not break at the knot. So undoubtedly the FG is a stronger knot. Now, I had a system worked out with my double uni and it worked for me, but I can run a longer leader with the FG, and I can reel it up into my reel. I just don't have to worry about it as much.
How long did it take you to get comfortable tying it then to where you would use it in competition?
Like I said, it pretty much took me a whole day to learn it. I just sat there and tied it. And then I started playing with it during my fishing, kind of during the off season and stuff. And really at the beginning of this year was when I started tying it during competition and using it during competition.
It just seems ridiculous. If I've got 20 minutes left and I've, get it caught up on a cross beam and it gets frayed, I can do like uni to uni in 10 seconds.
Absolutely.
My deal is like, I'm scared that if I learn the FG, then I'm like, well, we're not fishing with the spinning rod anymore because I've got, you got the Chinese finger trap and the crochet, thing going, but just like a C-map, you spend some time on everyone seems to be going to that knot though.
It's great. I mean, it is better. I hate to say it, but it's better. But I mean, I won a ton of money on a double uni too, dude. And I can honestly say I never lost a fish because of a double uni knot breaking. That's
Mhm.
honest to goodness. So, I mean, obviously it's a great knot too. Use what works for you.
All right. Open success. You're like 40-something% of the opens that you fish, you top 10 in. If you look at the field, now granted, some of these are back when there were 140, 150 boats in the field, which is still a lot of boats, but even more recently, 200, 230 boats. I mean, a top 10, you're talking astronomical odds, and your top 10s are through the freaking roof percentage-wise. You got to have a system. You have to have something figured out to where you can take a field that is absolutely throttling a fishery and fish all 3 days.
Yeah, I kind of hinted at this just a little while ago, but even more so in the opens, I have learned to look for something off the beaten path a little more. Just to give you for instance, everybody at Cherokee, that last Southern we fished at Lake Cherokee, I knew there was a really good chance that it was going to be one down the lake. Everybody using active target and live scope and all that, looking at smallmouth, and that is how it was won. And I tried that for a day of practice, and I just wasn't feeling it, man. I was like, I'm not having fun doing this because that's what everybody's doing. So I ran way up the river, and I flipped every outside bend I could find with a 5/8 ounce jig, and I ended up having a great tournament. I just had fun. I think I heard Hackney say it one time. He said, if I can find a place that I don't have to share with anybody, even if it's not near as good a spot, but I've got it to myself, that's what I want to find. And I've always remembered that. And I've learned to use that in my fishing, dude, because it makes a big difference when you don't, when you don't have to split your fish up especially in an opens field with 225 guys. There's a lot of strategy involved because a lot of those guys will get there a month beforehand, dude. And they, like you said, they're absolutely throttling that fishery. And that's another thing that I should talk about in the opens. The most I ever practice for an open is like 4 days. I don't want 2 weeks of fishing rolling around in my head, 2 weeks of practice rolling around in my head ever. That would completely throw me off. I mean, at no time of the year are fish doing the same thing for 2 weeks in a row. But besides maybe the summertime on the TVA, there might be fish on the hole for 2 weeks in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, there's no way. I mean, even if I have nothing going on, I'm only going to practice for an open for maybe 4 days. That's all I need. I don't want any more practice than that.
So in a sense, the fact that there is no off limits helps you because you're not out practicing when everyone else is.
I think so, but because these guys and I'm not talking bad about anybody. If that's what they want to do, go for it. But these guys that get there 3 weeks beforehand, 2 weeks beforehand, and they start practicing. Take a place like the Kissimmee chain where I won earlier this year. So they have time to look at the whole entire chain. They have time to break down Toho, to break down Kissimmee, Hasnahaw, Tiger. They have time to look at all of it. Well, when the tournament rolls around, they've probably got fish in every one of them. Well, let's just say they roll up and all of a sudden they don't catch one in 30 or 45 minutes. Man, I got them fish on the south end of Kissimmee, and they're up here on the north end of Toho. You spend all your time
running
chasing rabbits down a rabbit hole. I want to be fishing for fish that I know are there. Like, I don't want to be running around chasing something that happened 2 weeks ago.
I like this. I like your system. I totally agree with it. Here's the main issue. You're just way better than the average cat, and you actually can capitalize on it. And the areas you find are way better than the off-beaten path areas that I find, because I totally agree with you. I said, my thing I've always said in the opens is, I said, a really good spot in practice becomes a marginal spot in the tournament because there's so many guys and there is a percentage of the field that's so talented they find it. And a marginal spot in practice may stay the same, but it becomes a good spot in the tournament because of all the pressure and the splitting up of the fish and everything that really good spot gets. And like, you're here and all these guys are here, and then boom, the scales start leveling, and then all of a sudden that marginal spot becomes good because the spot that was good that had more fish in it gets beat to smithereens.
Yeah, that's another thing you kind of have to watch as the tournament goes on, and that's something that you can't predict ever. You have to watch as the tournament goes on who's fishing what, not trying to cut in on anybody or anything like that, but watch what's getting fished. Watch what hasn't been fished in the past 4 or 5 hours, and it's been able to rest, and kind of keep an eye on obvious structure in that area that those fish might go to when they get pressured, or kind of look for something that maybe there's a dock that you can skip your bait way back under that somebody else couldn't do. You always kind of got to be looking and evolving as the tournament goes on.
You're playing a chess game out there. It's not just go out and catch it and hope for the best. It's
weather changes are a big key too. Just like in that open win, the first 2 days I basically caught them bed fishing and pitching at beds, and caught a couple flipping mats because the sun was out and stuff. But that third day in the open, it was windy and rainy. I had to catch every one of them on a chatterbait, just winding.
Yeah, and where you were in that open, I mean, obviously it's where it is, but it was like the lake in between the two main lakes, and it literally there's a ramp in there, and I put in there a couple days, and it's like even hard to get up on pad, and like you get near the bank and you get your boat stuck, and like afterwards I was like, I remember walking, he won in that lake. Like I didn't even know there was a freaking bass in that lake. Like, I mean, you're trying to go through there. I was like, that is just like some next level stuff. Like just how to literally break down it honestly is just a perfect circle with a canal on one end, a canal on the other end, and like a couple little canal deals, and the rest of it was, I was mesmerized at how you're able to even break down what the heck you needed to do in that little thing. Because it's like just a little pond.
It was. Yeah. Honestly, the only thing that keyed me in that place, number one, it was full of real healthy hydrilla. And it had eelgrass in it as well, which eelgrass, when you see healthy eelgrass in Florida, there's probably going to be some dang bass around, especially during the spawn. But I got in there, and I started seeing a bunch of beds. And when I started seeing those beds, I knew I had seen it before. I knew something was going down in there for sure.
And it was something was a little bit off the beaten path because probably a lot of guys were going right through that lake.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's never, to my knowledge, as many times as bass has been down there, there's never been an open one out of that particular lake. There's been some big ones caught out of Hatchinahaw and stuff, but it's usually either one out of Toho or out of Kissimmee. So those other lakes, they just don't, they kind of get overlooked. And that was another thing. There was only maybe 2 or 3 other guys that fished that same stretch as I did. And I felt like I just got lucky and dialed it in a little bit better, I guess.
All right, we are talking with Elite Series champion Brandon Lester. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, I want to wrap things up with you with looking ahead towards the rest of the Elite Series season, some places you've done really well on, some places that you need to up your game on a little bit if you're going to track down Brandon Polinick and make this Angler of the Year race interesting at the end. So BTL on a Tuesday with Brandon Lester. We'll be back right after this.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polinick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
Welcome back, BTL. Talking with Brandon Lester about the Bassmaster Opens, about his Open win, about his Elite Series win, about finding fish, mapping fish, the mental side of it, all sorts of stuff we've covered in this show. I guess the show could be an event. One of the things I want to get to as we close things out is, dude, you're within striking distance. You're within striking distance of the man. Brandon Polinick has said that, if things, we weren't sure about the baby, like, because he said I'm bouncing if the baby, but then the baby didn't come. It came late. He had a good tournament. Now he's got kind of a lead on you, but you are in the top 5. You are in 4th place in the Angler of the Year. Let me pull it up here to just put things totally in perspective. Yeah, you're in 4th. You got 477. Brandon's got 536. Doable in the last 3?
It's possible, not probable, but it's possible. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen in this sport. You never know, but the places we're fixing to go, Brandon's going to catch them. I mean, I have no doubt. He's an incredible angler. What he's done this year and several other years is pretty dang crazy. The dude catches them everywhere, and I have no doubt we're fixing to have 2 smallmouth dominated tournaments, and I would say that's probably his biggest strength among many. So probably not probable, but yes, it is possible.
It's an interesting year because, we've seen what Fighter, we've seen what the Johnsons have done, and a lot of times going up into it, there's been several small, quote-unquote, smallmouth anglers that are in the mix here. But you got Brandon Polinick, then you have John Cox, David Mullins, Drew Benton, Cliff Perch. I throw him as a smallmouth guy. Then Matt Airy, Canterbury, Zaldane, and Porosnik. So it'll be interesting to see the shuffling. Here's my question to you. We're headed to La Crosse and Oahe in 2 of the last 3. You've had a really good track record of consistency on the St. Lawrence River, 38th, 48th, 3rd, 32nd, and 67th. That averages out to about, 35th place finish, solid. But you're going back to Oahe. You finished 90th there when the Elite Series last went there in 18. Everybody has that lake that they are going to for a BFL, for a club tournament that they sucked at the last time they were there. It's not a lake that's on the schedule. The only time you fish it is in a tournament. That's the situation you're in with Oahe. How do you go back to a fishery where you got your tail kicked the first time, and it's not like you can just mosey on up to South Dakota and learn the joint?
Yeah, I just completely missed the ball the last time we were there. And sometimes that happens. I got just enough bites winding the swim bait around up shallow and stuff there the last time we were there that it kind of lured me in and sucked me in, and then it dropped me on my face come tournament time. And sometimes that happens, and really I just didn't have anything to fall back on. But I'm excited to have another crack at it. I feel like I've come a long way as an angler since then. I have active target now, which is definitely a game changer, because that was definitely a big role in that tournament, and will be a big role in that tournament this year as well. So I'm excited to get back and have another crack at it. It's always cool to go to a place. I've been doing this 9 years now, and I've seen a lot of the places that we go, and it's always cool to go to a place that you don't have a ton of experience on. It's why we do it, going out there, breaking down the puzzle, learning it every single day. That's what keeps you coming back about this sport. At least that's what keeps me coming back.
So will you go back and visit some of the areas that you got bid on Oahe? Will you go back and watch the TV show? Will you how were you prepared for this, or will you treat it like a blank slate and utilize the new tools that you didn't have last time going?
Yeah, so this time we're putting in Lake Oahe is a huge lake. It's
like the moon.
I don't know how big it is, but it's great big. I can tell you that. And we're putting in a totally different part this time. The thing about it is it's in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, so there's not any gas stations around. I think there's one place to get gas on the whole lake. So we're putting in a completely different part of the lake this time. And I mean, I've done some internet research and stuff. Apparently that lake has really come on strong, a lot better than what it was the last time we were there 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, however long it was, 4 years ago, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, I probably will go back and maybe look at a couple of the areas where I caught them. But as far as having any juice holes or anything like that, I don't really have any. So we'll just kind of take it for a brand new clean slate and try to break it down.
For those wondering, Oahe is 370,000 acres surface area. Pickwick is 43,100.
Right. That's a big body of water.
That is a lot of acres for walleyes to be in.
Yeah.
That is a lot of trolling Lindy rigs.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Anything else you want to get in here, Brandon? Before I let you go, like I said, I know you are going to be on Bass U Live next, where you're probably going to go a lot deeper into tactics, baits, how you actually broke it down and actually hooked and caught the fish.
Yep.
I would assume.
Yep, absolutely. I'll be on with those guys here just a little while. It's going to be a pretty booked up week. We'll be on a lot of different places and a lot of different things, but man, it's all good. That's a real good problem to have. I'll do it at every tournament. It's fine with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to jump on BTL and break it down. Long overdue. Like I said, I know JD was like, you got to get him on after the open win. And it was one of those deals where, he had like events and I was gone and we're taping shows and then you won. And I was like, you're on. So you're welcome on BTL anytime. Greatly appreciated, Brandon. And a lot of people happy for you for your success. I've always said this is, it's interesting. Your competitors, but there's times when certain people win where guys give him the old tip of the cap and say, dude, he deserves it. He does it the right way. It's his time. And you're definitely one of those guys with a lot of peer respect in the professional ranks. So
I certainly appreciate that. That means a lot to me. I had several texts from competitors and and saying that, man, it's long overdue. And several of them told me the next couple will come a lot easier. I said, well, I hope so. I hope I don't have to wait 9
That's kind of
years
scary
to feel this again. But no, having the respect of the other guys and stuff, that really means a lot to me. It really does.
All right, Brandon, have fun this week.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Right,
Talk to you soon.
See ya. All right, that was Brandon Lester, week and a half off of his Elite Series win, fresh off of the beach. Some really interesting stuff there. Some of his thought processes of finding and identifying, not maybe the absolute best spot on the fishery. He happened to find the best spot on Pickwick, but looking for a little bit of those kind of off the beaten path secondary stuff that develop as the tournament goes on and the community holes get drilled. So that's what we got for BTL on a Tuesday. Considering taking some calls on tomorrow's show. Have not opened up the Sunline Hotline show very often. If you maybe do a call-in show, and then got a really good day 4 with Uncle Frank. It will not be live. It's actually a recorded show with his cameraman who does all of Uncle Frank's filming, but kind of went behind the scenes there on that one. But BTL on a Tuesday. Big shout out to Brandon Lester. We'll talk to you tomorrow.